Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. I'm glad to be here as your tour guide almost to my native language, and using this channel as my way to stay connected to my roots. And I'm happy that I'm fortunate. I feel that I grew up in Chinese culture. Okay, 农业, 商业, we talked about agriculture and commerce, the two industries yesterday. And today we're going to continue with 业, but today is not exactly about industry, but two different aspects in personal life. Well, I guess when in English, when we say personal, it means interpersonal almost. But here, personal life means that in an individual's life path, there are two different influential sectors that made up life. So one is 事业, one is 学业, and normally 学业 go first, right? Because it's about learning about academics, and 事业 comes after you graduate, and then you can apply what you learn over here into doing things, and this is your career. So that's Chinese expression to say learning or academics and a career. Okay, let's go one by one. 是 we have, I call it event business, but actually it's about doing things, about processing things. It came from this 3-finger hand symbol, looks like this. Can you see? It's kind of like that. It's kind of a hand, it's holding onto a staff, which is most likely a pen, not a pen like a contemporary pen, but a brush. So it's hand writing something. So when in writing is kind of a formal way of communication, right? Or record keeping. And then we have this head and headgear. So this head and headgear, because in ancient garmency, whoever are appointed as government officials, first off, they have to go through this 学业, many years reciting books and books of classical literature in Chinese about how to rule the country, basically teaching you how to be a person, how to be a good, loyal, left or right armsman to your boss. And there is a whole hierarchy of the bosses, and there is one central boss, which is the emperor of that kingdom. So maybe dedicated a decade to learn that, to memorize that. So to such a good degree that the master of the language or the understanding of the essence of what's expected, mostly built on Confucius' idea of how the society works, and then pass a national exam. And if you're good enough, you're outstanding as you're outstanding in your test written exam, basically writing out how you think the country should be run. And then you are going to start your 事, wear a special gear on your hat. So that's the way to distinguish that you're official appointed government official. So this headgear now connected to this staff is kind of signifying this is not a regular brush. This is a governmental brush that gives you the authority. It's the emperor assigned a short authority to you as somebody who is going to communicate or carry out the wills of how to run the country from the top of the country leader, which is, well, it's hereditary. It's from father-son position. It has nothing to do with the people. It's no election at all. But somehow they're top of the country, and they influence everybody on the land they governed. And that's always been the case in the past, at least, right? So that's the 3-hand finger holding this government brush is to show that's the kind of processing. That's how serious the business is. It's government assigned, authorized processing of things. So when it involves that, a lot of times is government decrees, or it could be in terms of a judicial function of the government, because China doesn't have the separation of power, right? So judiciary is the judge also served by the government, same government official who spread the orders from the top. So that judging, if there are civil cases in there, it's also processed by this hand holding this government official authorized brush. Okay, so that's eventually that was generalized, not just the government processing of things, but in everybody's life. I guess this means serious business. So business, and we call it a year. Even if we use year, in the previous chapters, we explained the year came from this musical instrument, the gongs, the metal pieces hanging suspended in the air. And then there are spacing in between the instruments so they don't touch each other, right? And there are this very specialized structure, almost like knots on the beam to hang these gongs. And this specialization eventually used to pair with different industries to mean, oh, that's a whole collection of specialty in this category of industry. But over here, apparently it doesn't mean industry anymore, but it means a consistent endeavor of something. So this is specialized, but here when I paired with serious business, specialized serious business, it means career because the specialty sense then means it's years of training. You then can do this well. So same logic here, as a years of training become a very specialized in that as a learner, as a student. So this is years of training becomes specialized in whatever serious business you're processing with. Okay, so this is same year, but then from the specialized, it extended into to become specialized. You have to dedicate years of doing that, right? So it becomes, I guess, temporally specialized, like a big chunk of time dedicated to that. Okay, so learning came from this, okay, this arch means a shelter, a space, a private space. It's not out in the street or out in the woods. It's some domestic, not exactly domestic, but it's sheltered space, a human built structure. And then this big-headed with two arms reaching out, that's our children symbol. This is kind of universal language, right? You can see this as a children because the children often have this pick me up hand gesture, and they're relative, big-headed. And then the right, the top here is actually two hands. Two hands are handling them. And the two axes, I would like to view it as the network of knowledge or information that's going to be passed down to be taught through generations, kind of a formal training, right? So the schooling in the past is different from contemporary. Like one teacher, yes, from one teacher to many students, there's a ratio, right? So in the ancient times, most likely, there were no public school system back then, obviously, right? It was private schools. There were only private schools. So family, a lot of times is an extended family who share the same last names, right? And then they intermarry, and then have this huge, growing, extensive, huge family trees. And then this family will pull together their resources to build such private schools to educate their kids. So that's how the rich family, at least back then, who have extra money to support the education of their kids, who most likely their whole ambition is to pass such national exams so that in one day they can become part of this governing agency, become part of the ruling party, at least carrying out the orders from above. So this learning came from babies, not baby, but little children stage in a safe environment with knowledge handed over to them. So somebody's teaching them. So that's the learning, the setting of the learning and the learner itself, and probably the two hands is kind of a carrying, like almost like growing plants, right? Almost like a farming. Instead of a growing plants, you're growing the knowledge, or getting the children kind of a blank paper, and then you cultivate something, whatever values, whatever knowledge you want to pass on to the next generation. So 学业 and 事业 together simply means there's two major parts in life. One is talking about the career, which is what you do when you grow up, when you graduate from 学业, which is like the first decade or two that you dedicated your life to learn things first. So I just picked the two images, and when I search 事业, this is one of the pictures the internet shows. So I guess this is a white collar business person with a suitcase running, right? Chasing the performance, all kinds of charts and KPIs and the time, right? So that grinding image of a running white collar guy. So that's the stereotypical representation of the concept of career. Okay. And then at the bottom is academics. And I just find it cute that some parents want to inspire their kids to be accomplished academically so much that they have to use this lamp shade in this graduation hat. So, I mean, luckily I didn't grow up in such an environment to have that hanging over my head every day and tell me that's the goal. One day you're going to graduate, you are going to honor the family by being a good student, right? Things like that. But these are the two major aspects of life, 事业 and 学业. Cash into the kind of think of thinking by one word a day with Sophie. See you another day.